my equipment and my routine is such that I can do that very quickly, and I don't want my equipment, of course, to get in the way with that. And of course, how much you spend on a mount is going to have, there are all sorts of mechanical issues that go away or get better mitigated by better and better engineering. Backlash is one. So what backlash is you're, get my, my green laser doesn't work here, right? You slew to something and you don't want it. Well, I'm very good at backlash. See, I'm not even doing it on purpose, but you just kind of, you get that little wiggle there when you're moving around. And if you're doing guiding, sometimes you do a little nudge on the mount. Some mounts you give it a little nudge for guiding, and it'll bump back and forth, when you're guiding as well. So those are things that you want to try to mitigate as well. Periodic error is most mounts have a worm and a gear that mesh together. And no matter what you do with that worm and that gear, there's going to be, this thing is going to happen, where, I'll do it this way so you can see it. And so what happens is the tracking speeds up and slows down ever so slightly. And this is a good picture of periodic error and an alignment error. If this was periodic error, this could be a 20-minute exposure or a 5-minute exposure. The dash and the stars would be the same length. If it was an alignment error, then a 20-minute exposure, you'd have big long lines instead of little short lines. So if you're getting, if you have good alignment and you're taking maybe 20-minute subs, and you still have these little dashes, no matter how long your subs are, that's the periodic error in your mount, and you need to either train that out or use guiding. And some scopes some mounts do a pretty good job of guiding out periodic error. Some mounts don't do such a good job. Read reviews on cloudy nights and let other people tell you what their experiences are. Flexure is one of my favorite pet peeves, because so many people don't understand what flexure is. When I went to school, I went to an engineering school. First semester, I took a class called statics. And I bet you took this class, Tim, the structural engineering. And I remember the professor saying, when you fly, you look out the window and the wings are doing this, scares people to death. And he says, if they don't do that, the wings will pop off and you'll die. So when you look out the window, you want to see the wings do that. And when we're stuck in traffic on an overpass and a semi goes by, the car goes up and down. My wife goes, oh, the bridge is moving. It's moving up and down. I'm like, thank God. I don't want to be on the 6 o'clock news. Things move. And this is in case anybody gets out of line. Yeah. So here, this is flexing, all right? You cannot make something stiff enough that it does not flex. This is flexing from here to here, and not just at my wrist, obviously, but there's actually flexure in this. This is pretty heavy. And a lot of people think that you can make something stiff enough. And I've seen people claim that mounts, somebody came over to us the other night and said, well, I'm surprised the mounts can't, hold it steady in the wind. Well, the wind isn't just blowing on the mount, it's blowing on the telescope. And the telescope is flexing and moving it around. And I've seen people claim, well, with this mount, they got this technology, and it solves all these other problems. Like, really? So if I told you that putting air in your tires gets you better mileage, you'd probably believe that. And that's true. But if I told you putting air in your tires made your headlights brighter, okay, you might go, well, that doesn't make much sense. Or if you put more air in your tires, your air conditioner blows cooler. Okay, when people are trying to sell you a mount, even us, okay, call us if you catch us doing nonsense. Be a little critical. Use a little critical thinking. Go, you know what? This is an issue that has nothing to do with the mount. The mount might help with it, but that issue, there's nothing you can do to the mount that's going to keep your mirror and all of that other stuff from flexing. You got a big scope, you're leaning this way, it tugs this way, and then you track over here past the meridian, oh, it's going to tug this way. There's no mount on the planet that fixes that. It's not a mount issue. So, but it is a tracking issue. It is a tracking issue, which is why you need, a total package software that works with the mount, It's one of the reasons we take sub-exposures, because even atmospheric refraction changes where the star is as you move up a little bit. So that's a tough thing to fix. The other issue about tracking is the meridian. Some mounts will get to the meridian because of the way the geometry of the German equatorial, it gets to the meridian and it goes, okay, now I can go a little bit past, but now I need to swing around, and it does this, and then the rest of your pictures are upside down. And personally, I hate that. I saw Tim was doing this the other night. He gets to the meridian, he switches on purpose, and I got to talk to him about this afterwards. Why do you do that? Because that's like, I hate that. But that's just my personal taste. And actually, our mounts, one of them goes past the meridian and one of them doesn't. So there are trade-offs, like he was talking about. There are engineering trade-offs that you make with that issue. So another thing about your mount and the software that works with the mount are pointing issues. And these two pointing cases are very, very different. If you're doing visual, you really don't need really great pointing accuracy. You just put in a wide field eyepiece and okay, there it is, and you slew it up to the center, and then you put in a better eyepiece. And really, if you've got what we call non-orthogonality, fancy way of saying your stuff ain't straight. So you have the rail on your mount pointing north, you put your telescope on there, but you can never really get that telescope pointing exactly right. But if you've got that pretty good and you've measured it and it's pretty good, really, if you've got a good polar alignment, you just need one other star to adjust it, get it right, and you can slew to almost anywhere in the sky, and visually what you're looking for is going to be, in your field of view. But when you have a little video camera with a field of view just a little bit wider than Jupiter, and I don't know how many of you have done this, but I've done this, and you tell the mount slew to Jupiter, and it goes, okay, it stops right there, and there's no Jupiter in the video. So what do? Well, you go up, you slew down, you slew this way, and you slew this way, and then you start doing this swirly thing, trying to find Jupiter, and then you look in the viewfinder, and you're like, okay, it's kind of over this way a little bit, and then you go up, and you go down, and you go this way, and you swirl around this way, and it's extremely frustrating. So if you have a software package that goes with the mount, and we're not the only ones that make mounts with this kind of technology, but I don't see how anybody could do this without either using ours or our competitors. Even our competitors, it makes it possible. I can't find little bitty tiny objects like that and get them on very tiny chips without a package that models the entire imaging system and does that. And a lot of people, like I said, they don't understand this flexure thing, and they look and they think it's straight because they look at it, or they take a ruler and they think it's straight, and it's still, those little errors add up quite a bit over time and as you're slewing around the sky. And I think actually, I never talk to people about astrophotography without this fatherly advice stuff. So here's a picture of Omega Centauri that I took at the Winter Star Party. I did not win the Astrophoto Prize that year, about 5 years ago. And this is the one I took last year, and that may or may not be a prize-winning shot either, but when you first try this, it doesn't matter how much money you spend. You're not going to be very good at it. It's like learning to skate or learning to play a sport. It takes a great deal of practice. And the more you practice and work at it, the better you get. And your taste for equipment will evolve as well. In fact, at the risk of losing my job, I would say if you're just getting started in astrophotography, I'm not sure I would invest $50,000 in a bunch of astrophoto gear. I would start with a small scope, wide field. The wider field, the better. Astrophotography is much easier with a wide field scope. It's much less sensitive to tracking problems, and you can buy a less expensive mount that doesn't necessarily track as well, but for a wide field, you can get away with it. Learn the techniques, learn how all that works. And when my son was 16, I did not go out and buy him a Lamborghini or a Ferrari. I said, you're going to drive the minivan, okay? Yes, he wanted it. He wanted it. The problem is the difference between a grown-up and an adult is an adult is a child, the difference between a child and a man. Disney, I went to some seminar, there was a guy from Disney talking about marketing. How do you market to children, boys, how do you market to men? He said, really, there's only one difference between boys and men. Men are tall boys with credit cards. And so, yeah, 16, you know, an adult, I want a Lamborghini. If you can afford a Lamborghini, you're going to go buy a Lamborghini. 16-year-old, I can say, look, you're driving the minivan because it's paid off, and if you destroy it, we were ready to get rid of it anyway. So, you know, work your way up. That's my fatherly advice for what it's worth. Okay.
Don't you have a lot more data on your website?
No, so I spent like 10 years photographing the moon. The moon is also like the easiest thing to photograph, okay? I had an 8-inch Newtonian and put the camera on there 1/800th of a second. Okay, you can't screw that up. And then I was like, well, I'm going to dabble with I got a webcam, like a Philips 2 cam, and I tried some planetary stuff. This Winter Star Party 7 years ago with my 2 cam, trying to take a picture of Mars. So, and now I took that last. No, I didn't. But yeah, okay. Planets, in my opinion, are like the hardest thing. The way I think, the way I work, the planets are the hardest thing. And this is my Jupiter, so I'm getting better, okay, on the planets. But yeah, the moon, you know, is really pretty easy to shoot. And when I shot this, it was through a Meade LX200, and it was like their little DSI thing. And I didn't even know to stack. Okay, this is one shot. That's what I thought, was you just took this. I've come a long way. I just took one shot and thought, well, that looks terrible. That camera's trash. I need a better camera, obviously. No, I didn't know how to stack. I didn't understand what stacking was. And actually, really nice, actually, Scott Roberts, they were doing a workshop that year, and I went over to him with the camera, and he showed me he showed me a few things. Actually, I learned quite a bit from that time. So, did he? Well, it's just.
No, he can't make it this year. He has to go to China. So he has his representative Russ and Greg down in the vendor area.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I just wanted to talk about tracking and the things that you do with tracking. And of course, if you want to talk more about tracking and our mounts, you can come and see us. And I'm going to turn it over to Giovanni, who can talk to you about his stuff. Yeah, we need to switch computers, so you...
do you have any
Yes.
HDMI? It will be easier.
No,
I also have this. But if
This is all he has.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all he has. So,
Yep,
you hold that. I'll just pop this off and this out. Just get out of the way and clean up later. Oh, yes, and we need your microphone. There it is.
I don't think I need it.
For the recording.
Oh, all right. So.
Go in your pocket?
Yeah.
Or not in your pocket?
Yeah, it's the same.
So put it inside. There's a mute
Yeah.
button on it.
It's on the slower side. Yeah, kind of. We're directly related with the economy does good, we do. The economy goes bad. It depends on how there's a bad plant. We make money.
What kinds of structures do you use?
All kinds, high rise to single family additions, everything between commercial, residential. From 60-story building to a little 300
Get it? I don't know about the correct resolution of the projector, but you know, anyway.
28 by 768 would be the.
Okay, so here it is.
Yes.
Yeah, yes, yeah. Okay, no problems. I like the fact that this is so informal this morning because I was a little bit concerned on what to say this morning because I have several stuff to show, and they talk about putting images together and putting colors together. So I'm going to talk about that stuff, and I will use as a starting point what Richard said about getting good data, and I will also like to use what he says about wide field imaging, because wide field imaging, it's easier to get, but it's a little bit more difficult in terms of doing good scopes that are able to get you wide field imaging. and that's why we are here, because now we are here trying to present two new scopes that we made. I work for Officina Stellare. We were here as a manufacturers together with Software-Bisque, and that are two telescopes made for wide field. So they're completely new optical design, and they guarantee you wide corrected field. And I'm going to show you very briefly, if I will able to find, where is my, there are some icons off the screen maybe. So I go there. In this case, I'm going to use Photoshop as my only program to do imaging. I pre-process the raw data. I shoot it with a CCD camera. It's an 11K camera sensor from FLI. And we get the raw data, and I subtracted the dark frame, I did the flat fields. But I want to show you just how to put images together for getting an RGB color image or LRGB color image, just with the 10 minutes exposure from one of our new telescope, which is an F3 system, so it's very fast. So I'm going to open this.
What diameter is your scope?
Those you can see here are taken by the new RH200. It's a 200 millimeters, 8-inch telescope, F3 system. I'm going to reset everything. Sorry?
The Ricardo Honda's astrograph?
Yeah, it's a Ricardo Honda's astrograph.
On our table, right?
Yeah, it's on the table. It's the smallest one, yeah.
A little short tube about this long.
Yeah, it's very compact. You can see, yeah. And those are just 10 minutes exposure with a dark frame subtracted and a flat field. I don't know how good is the flat field because we made it. But I use this Fits Liberator plugin. This is version 2. It works with Photoshop. But now there's a version 3, which is a standalone application. You can use it and for opening your TIFF file, your FITS file, and then saving them as a TIFF or whatever you want. The important stuff is here you can handle floating point data, as he said, because when you do the math on images, it's very good to have a high precision level. The highest is the precision level, the more correct is the results. The more correct means less noise. Less noise means you have much more certain data versus uncertain data, which means much more contrast. So I can show something because I know that something is here. I'm not sure if it's here or not. I can show that those data because they are probably noise. That's true also for imaging. When you process an image, there is some kind of data you cannot use, you cannot show increase because you are not sure if they are real or just noise. Anyway, this is, here you can see the whole histogram. So I normally do this, so stretch all over the histogram from 0 to the top of the histogram. So I don't want to lose anything from the image. And here I click this little icon. It says, this is my, get my black point where I place the cursor. And do the same for white point. Now we are using linear stretch transfer function. So you are seeing linear data. This is the scaled peak level that I want to show. In this case, I use 250 because I'm going to use a non-linear stretching. And I'm going to use that one. Okay, now the histogram has been stretched in a non-linear way with the arc scene of the H. I'm going to reset my black point here, not touching the line. I don't want to cut any data because at this point I'm not sure if there are data of noise. But I want to continue to keep all the data in Photoshop. I reset my black point here. I say, okay, this is my new black point, okay? So it stretches again the histogram. Okay, and that's it. I said, okay. I'm working in a gray gamma 2.2. It's a monitor RGB. It's a monitor profile. So it's for showing images, gray images on TVs, on monitors. So I use this in Photoshop. And this is my this is my blue, okay, blue RGB image. I do the same for the green. Okay. And for the blue, and for the red, sorry. The most important thing is those are pre-color weighted images. And what does it mean? That I measure the flux from a G2V star for the 3 channel, and I did an exposure that equalized this level. So I get a white point which is similar to the white point of our sun. And it gives me the idea of the color of that image, of that subject, as if it was illuminated by the sun. And this is the normal way we see things, illuminated by our sun. Okay. Well, I get those 3 images. Okay. The gray, the blue, the green, the blue, and the red. How to put those 3 images together to get a color image in Photoshop? There are several ways. I'm going to show you not the easiest one, but the one that gives you much more control of the entire process. So the images are already pre-aligned. I've used the CCD, I don't remember if it was Maxim DL or CCD stack to align the three images together. Again, those are just 10 minutes exposure, 1, 1, and 1, RGB. You just started to see how much nebulosity you get in with such a wide field and such a correct telescope with f3. Okay, this comes in grayscale. I go to in image mode and I change it to the RGB. Otherwise, I can see colors. And I did this on my blue image. Okay. At this point, I go to my green one, and I copy that images on top of the blue. For doing this, the easiest way is to right-click here on the background and say duplicate layer. Okay, it says where you want it to duplicate it, and I say on the B image. Okay, I got it. Now, if I go on my B, I can see two layers. Okay, the first one was my original B, and now it's the green that I just copied on. I do the same for my air channel. I duplicate it on the B. Okay, at this point I don't need no more the air, the R, and the G. Okay, now I have three layers which are R, G, and B, and I give it a name, blue. I can give also blue color. So it's not necessary, but it's visually more clear. So you know this one is the blue. I do the same, double clicking here, you can change, or you can change the name, okay? Green, and I give it a black color, a green color, sorry, okay? And I do the same for the red. Okay. Those operation gives you a file which is non-destructive. So you still have your original data, you can manipulate it, but without touching the original. So you can always adjust things without destroying something and having to go back and do it again. That's the point, which is much more, a little bit much more complicated. Now, I have to use this, map this to the red color, this to the green, and this other to the blue. And how do you do this? This is the same method that NASA uses for the images when they putting the images together using Photoshop. I use the hue and saturation. From here, you can see from here, you have the ability to make new layers. Those are adjustment layers. If I click here, it says what kind of adjustment layers you want to put on, and I say hue and saturation. Okay? Now, there is no color, so if I change the hue, nothing changes really. That's why, because I have to use this command to give a color to that image. And I use this one, Colorize. Okay? When I use Colorize, it gives a color which corresponds to the hue in the Newton wheel. The Newton wheel starts from 0